The 2010s. Yeah, they happened alright, but it's time to close them off for good and move on to a new chapter. Who knows what the new decade may have for us, but there are predictions out there that the 2020s will happen? So let's take us in the mind of one individual, a mid-20-something with 2,000 subscribers ready to talk about his personal gaming experiences of the previous decade. Let's observe his feelings by taking a peek inside his mind.
Are you ready?
Who even likes video games? Gamers? Don't know about that one. Don't know if I'll really need to set the scene for this one. I mean, it's my favorite games of the 2010s. Don't tell me you clicked on this video hearing me talk about how I once killed a man. So, I was just standing there when suddenly there's this horse, right? However, I did have to place a surprising amount of rules to narrow down my choices a little bit. This is boring, but if it avoids me having to clarify things, then we good. First off, no compilations. Most of those are literally just older games bundled into a new release, and I feel that that's disingenuous to all the great original releases that happened, so they're out of the picture. Speaking of, all those Last of Us remasters, BioShock remasters, Dark Souls remasters, you know, those types of enhanced versions with very little going the way of changing the core game that's not translation to the new hardware, I only considered the original versions of those games when making this list. Trust me, this did hurt me in the long run because my favorite version of one of my favorite games had to be cut since it's an enhanced version of a mobile port, which in itself is an enhanced version of a game that released on the DS in the previous decade. Same can be said with games that were just flat out ports released at a later time, so it's a sad day for the Cave Story and Castle Crashers communities. Full-blown remakes, however, I'm counting those the year they were released. I know there's a lot of discussion as to the difference between remakes and remasters, but all you need to know is that I'm a Pokemon fan and that will come into play in a bit. There's a big difference between a Fire Red and a Modern Warfare remaster. At least I would assume so. When it comes to games that were in beta or had demos released a year or two before, the final release is what counts. It's when the game was finished after all. We've applied that concept to humans for a long time. And speaking more of which version is going to be accounted for, since I'm a stupid West Virginian, instead of having sex with my cousin, I'm more attracted to referring to North American release dates of video games. Satan, you better watch out. And the final rule, it'd help if I actually played and finished the games I picked. With that said, please keep in mind that I don't play every game that comes out, let alone the same year it releases. I try to play as many games as I can, but I mean, I just don't get to it in time, so we'll see how quickly and hilariously this video gets outdated. And when it comes to what kind of games I considered my favorites of the year, really there's a lot of varying conditions, whether it be by how much fun I had, what levels of emotional experiences I take away, most innovated, all that silly stuff. It really depends on the year itself, so really, all these are just my stupid opinions. So, now that we got all those stinking terms and conditions out of the way, this. Like most of my life, I don't remember anything for 2010 offhand because of how early in the decade it was. I mean, I was still in middle school and I just instinctively block out anything that happened then. But when it comes to the amount of games that released then, there were a good amount to choose from. Games that I remember beating and enjoying and wanting to give another chance, but ultimately don't think of as highly as other picks, like Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Mega Man 10, Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs, Super Meat Boy, Sonic Colors, Poke Park Wii, Pikachu's Adventure. There were also picks like Kirby's Epic Yarn, Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 2, Donkey Kong Country Returns. They're also fun times, but again, there were a few releases I liked more. No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle was briefly considered for its typical camp factor and hack and slash gameplay you'd come to expect out of a No More Heroes game, but there are way too many aggravating portions to really justify calling it my favorite game of really most years. Super Mario Galaxy 2 was very close to taking it though. For Wii standards, it's a fantastic looking game with god tier music, amazing level design that encourages exploration and rewards players for doing so, something I thought that Mario Odyssey pioneered, but hey, look at that. Thing is, the game takes a particularly heavy nosedive at the final boss, and it's not really that I think it recovers in the post game. The Green Star mechanic is a brilliant idea, there are just way too many of them for a game that boots you back to the hub world, a point that Mario Odyssey will kindly take back. But hey, I did say I'm a Pokemon fan. So I think anyone that's played these games know that in the world of remakes, these are basically better than Sex 2. But in case you somehow don't know, let's talk about the original Gold and Silver for a sec. Gen 2 was already an ambitious leap forward for the series. Gen 1 epitomized the term first game of the Pokemon series, so Gen 2 came in and basically fixed all those nagging yet hilarious coding errors that we all know and love. Kind of. Oh, and they added a few more things. Not really much or anything influential other than shiny Pokemon, breeding, genders, an internal clock, hold items, 2 new types, a more balanced stat distribution, and 2 whole regions in one 2 megabyte cart. In my opinion, there's a lot of little things that are wrong with it, but I would say the biggest one would be the fact that over time, the games feel I guess kind of bare bones. I mean, there's only so much you can fit on one of these things, and of course, time can invalidate lots of things, so really it was inevitable. And god, did they pick a good time to do it. I mean, sure, Johto still has its wacky level balancing, and even though I would argue it's actually worse off this time, everything else is just sublime. For one, Kanto on the Game Boy Color could only hold so much on such a tiny cart, so some areas were either not present or just bastardized. Now we got basically everything here and then some. Blaine's Gym is an actual gym, Cerulean Caves and Seafoam Islands return along with some nice recreations, Viridian Forest is actually a Viridian Forest. There's also the fact that we have a Johto game released in the modern era with almost 500 Pokemon with their own natures, abilities, double battles, Ice Punch being a physical move. But what makes this game so charming to me is all the little things that were done that nobody really asked for but are completely welcome all the same. For example, the touchscreen being the basis of the pause menu and allowing you to run without holding the B button, the Pokemon in your first slot of the party following you around, certain plot elements like the Kimono Girls and Suicune given a bit more love, and the Pokeathlon and Voltorb Flip minigames are also a surprisingly fun time. And even going outside of the base game, Game Freak's admittedly stupid habits of releasing limited time DLC, kind of, despite being already coded in the game, were also really cool this time around, such as the JPEG slideshow that is the Arceus event giving birth to one of the Sinnoh legendaries, somebody asked for that. Also a Celebi event where we actually know that Giovanni is the rival's father, and we even fight him later. That's a nice touch that explains a lot about why Silver hates Team Rocket so much. And even coming packaged with the game is your very own Tamagotchi, where you can transfer your Pokemon on it and walk around to receive goodies in the game. I even still have mine, and it works like a charm. 2011 was pretty good. I mean, the 3DS release, and that came with... and... also my reason for existing too, I guess. The 3DS launch may have blew, but Pilotwings Resort was so goddamn cool and was absolutely the best part of Wii Sports Resort and was all I needed, and I think Nintendo knew that too. But as we all know, it did pick up later, especially that year with a new Mario Kart and a new 3D Mario game. That's one thing the 3DS will have against humanity. Meanwhile, on the Wii, we had one of the best Kirby games to have ever come out and one of the most Zelda games to have ever come out. This was also the year that gave us a Sonic game I really enjoyed with fun level designs and cool set pieces. Hell, this was the year that Minecraft officially released. And since I'm a stupid fool, I have to remind you guys that I haven't touched Skyrim, Portal, Saints Row the Third, Uncharted 3, LA Noire, Dark Souls, Rayman Origins. I've only ever really played like 2 video games ever. So the one that took the cake was what I imagine went down at Game Freak that year.
Oh, I'm so sick of these gyms and basic colors. You know who liked either of those? Yeah, Hitler.
Man, if you thought Pokemon Sword and Shield's deep cuts were hard to manage, imagine 2011, where these brand new games coming out and you go through the entire main game with all 0 of the old Pokemon. And now Gen 5 are some of the most well-enjoyed games in the series. Huh, and that's just the thing, because Black and White are some of the most far-removed games from everything else in Pokemon. With games that have come out before and since, new releases have always liked to lean in on itself with various callbacks, like new Pokemon forms, story beats, locations, what have you. And listen, even though that I, for one, love it when they do that, because basically a third of my entire life's caloric intake is Pokemon Fire Red, Black and White really wants you to take in the entire region and characters of Unova, and only Unova. Until post-game, we are met with only new Pokemon, which has some of the best collections of monsters in the entire series. Crocodile, Volcarona, Galvantula, Gigalith, Excadrill, Haxorus, Chandelure, Zoroark, Bisharp, Reuniclus. Christ! Something else to take note of for a goddamn Pokemon game, the story. Basically, any other Pokemon game is all about collecting the gym badges and slapping the champion with some evil group of stupid assholes off to the sideline, but now the stupid assholes are basically in the forefront. It always felt weird that the World Conquerors are second to some lame league challenge, but leave it to Team Plasma for wanting to liberate Pokemon from their trainers and using N as their king to become champion in order to see to it. For once, it actually incentivizes you to collect the gym badges, and it presents a lot of subtext about what Pokemon really means to a trainer beyond just battling. Now, there are major factors as to why Black and White mean so much to me, but really what it boils down to are all the little things for me. I'm just gonna say it this way, this is peak 2D Pokemon right here. Animated sprites, dynamic camera angles, plenty of emphasis on 3D models. This is the generation that honestly makes me miss it when Pokemon was more sprite-based. Not to mention, this is the snappiest and quickest and most efficient the gameplay has ever been. Compared to Gen 4, the battle speed, the text boxes, how quickly the game handles tutorials so you can quickly get off your feet, how easy it is to grind with Audino, HM usage being pushed way back, TM usage now being infinite. Like, I know Pokemon has made efforts to make competitive battling more efficient, but by just going through the damn game to begin with, Black and White's measures of making a much more compelling story and making the playing experience enjoyable makes this one to replay for a heckin' long time.
I am so cool!
yeah, we aren't done with the Pokemania just yet. In all fairness, there were other titles that almost took the cake, like Kid Icarus Uprising, Dust and Elysian Tale, Hotline Miami. I even liked both of the new Super Mario games that came out. And sure, there's a billion other games I could have played, but even still, come on. Pokemon's my favorite video game series, and this is my favorite game from it. Granted, the story that Black and White set up for here wasn't really all that cracked up to be. It really is another collect the gym badge and stop the goons type story, which, yeah, is expected from a Pokemon game, but we don't really get as many great character moments like we did with people like Sharon and N, and T-Plasma's just another Isis, like come on guys. But, on the other hand, I personally value content out of my Pokemon games more than story, and in that case, you take this word, remove the S, remove the X, and bam! I never really talked about Unova in the last segment, but for a region mainly based in America, particularly New York, there's a lot of variety in the locales, and it's generally a nice Pokemon region, only to be improved in the sequels with even more motifs that the region wasn't really missing, but it's heavily appreciated to have them here. For all you Bridge fans out there, we got you. As if we really needed any more. We got more quality of life improvements, like being able to immediately use another repel instead of having to go into your bag, and being able to move hold items between party Pokemon. Not to mention that Pokemon from other regions are now available, and some of the ones you can get from the wild are just flat out ridiculous. You can find a goddamn Riolu before the first gym, and with other personal favorites like Eevee, Magnemite, Aeron, Pupitar, Metang, this is easily one of my favorite regional dexes in the whole series. There's also a lot of other side things that in most playthroughs I don't use, but the additions of achievement like medals, a mini game where you make your own movies by following the script or deviating from it in order to entertain audiences, a key system that allows you to change the difficulty and even change certain areas in the game, and the coolest of all, a world tournament where every gym leader and champion in the whole series are able to be slapped. Black and White 2 may not be as good of a narrative experience as, let's be honest, most Pokemon games, but the amount of content that it has make it more than an amazing experience. I haven't exactly missed 2D Pokemon since the jump to 3D, but Generation 5 has made me come close to it. Nah, just kidding. Yeah. Gen 6 is basically the butt monkey of the series, but to its credit, its transition to 3D did basically mold what would become the rest of the main series games to this point. Whether or not that's a good thing is up to you, but even I can admit, there are much better games that came out that year. One brief consideration was Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3, gotta maintain my reputation, but admittedly the combat does get a bit repetitive, which is a small problem I really have with the whole series. Fire Emblem Awakening, The Last of Us, Pikmin 3, and Wonderful 101 are all fantastic games I never even finished, yikes! Super Mario 3D World, A Link Between Worlds, and Mario & Luigi Dream Team are all great games in their own right, but I don't really see them as Game of the Year material. So it came down to the wire between 4 games. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a fun as hell game, a technical landmark, and allows you to fulfill your dreams of finally becoming serial killer. However, the whole novelty of a giant sandbox world that you can do whatever you want is specific to me. If I'm playing with friends, then it's no problem really, but since I play most games on my own, GTA 5 is not usually much more than a drive your car up this mountain and drive off it and watch it make funny crashes simulator. And listen, if I want the most fun possible, I don't want to find myself deliberately dodging the cops or using mods to get rid of them, and the same can be said for GTA. Saints Row 4 is wacky and wonderful enough to keep my attention, the characters are enjoyable, and all the superpowers you can get are near game-breaking. I love it. But in order to get those powers, you need these data clusters, and at the worst of times, Saints Row 4 is a grindy game. For a while, I gave the spot to Metal Gear Rising Revengeance for being one of the most ridiculous games I've ever played. I know hell all about Metal Gear, but seeing that they made a character once universally hated and expanded upon him after 4, with some of the most satisfying hack and slash gameplay and one of the most god-tier power metal soundtracks I've ever heard. But when it's fun, it's really fun. When it blows, it really blows. So out of everything that could have come out in this great year of games, what could have been my pick? I'm picking the one with the dog. I mean, you can evade mortgages in Animal Crossing, so really it's not that much different from GTA. So what made me choose this over the sheer amount of that 2013 offered? And what sets this apart from other Animal Crossing titles? Well, to answer the latter, honestly not much. At its core, New Leaf is mostly the same old Animal Crossing we all know and love. You live life at your own leisure with these funny little animal friends and really do whatever the game has to offer. Go fishing, decorate your home, collecting fossils, socializing with a horse, standard life stuff. The game's day-night cycle mimics real life, and with its cheery visuals and sound, it's really a life away from life. But New Leaf does have aspects that set it apart from the rest. One particularly being that you're forcibly taking the role of mayor of the town you just move in. Hate it when that happens. But being the mayor actually does more to tailor your own personal gaming experience than you may think. You can change how the town operates, such as making shops open and close earlier or later, buy all the money, or preventing the town from environmentally going to hell. Never mind, this is nothing like real life. There are also other fun new activities, like the dance club. I told you guys this and GTA were alike, as well as the island making a return from the first game. But there's a lot more to it, like minigames and easy access to money. So let's bring it back to the beginning. Why did I choose this over all the games to represent a specific year? Well, aside from all the cyber sex I've never had, and as much as I love more action-y games that get you more involved, games like Animal Crossing come in and give you something chill. Something to check in and immerse yourself into an environment and just relax. Even if it's just me checking in, getting a couple things done, and then tapping out till the next day. And yeah, that kind of involvement happens in really any mobile game. Animal Crossing games don't lure me in to pointlessly take my money out of my credit card. Except for that one Animal Crossing game that lured me into pointlessly taking money on my credit card. And apparently there's a subscription service on top of that too? Uh-huh. 2014 may not have had as many big industry-leading games as most years before or since, but there's definitely a lot of different options to choose from. Two of my old hyperfixations at the time were starting to become big at around this year, being Danganronpa 1 and 2 and Love Live School Idol Festival. But at the end of the day, they're still old hyperfixations. Still a fan, but not as much. Five Nights at Freddy's came out. Octodad Dadliest Catch is silly fun, just at best it's something to pop in, play through, and then pop out, since it's really a short novelty game and all. Same can admittedly be said for Tamagotchi Life. Sure, the scenarios you can put all your Miis in are batshit insane, and its approach to Mii simulation leaves a lot of replay value. It's just not what I consider my favorite of that year. Kirby Triple Deluxe is a fun Kirby game, but honestly to me that's where it starts and ends. A great game, I just don't think it does much to stand out among other games. Mario Kart 8 is a hell of a fun time, and it got even better with the Switch release. And that's just a thing. Since Deluxe is out, I see no reason to go to the
Wii U
version. But even the base game is still phenomenal. Pokemon even finally gave us the Hoenn remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And even though I am of the opinion that these are my preferred Hoenn games, there's a lot of little things that kind of drag it down. Mainly how most areas in the game require a loading screen. This is a Pokemon game on the 3DS, how? By virtue of it being Smash, I almost picked it as the game of that year. But even before Ultimate came out, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are phenomenal Smash games for its time, but time itself has shown that many more nitpicks I can bring up, like the game speed being almost pitiful, and the graphics are almost too saturated for my liking. Plus, there's this unfortunate issue that I would rather play the Wii U version as a Smash game, but the 3DS version doesn't have. So of course the guy with the shovel won. Hey, remember when this was released at a time where the retro revival was uncommon? Well, for every that, there are games like Shovel Knight to remind ourselves that, hey, maybe these classic type games can be good. Really, Shovel Knight succeeds at being a pastiche to classic gaming by just trying to be its own thing. I mean, sure, you can see inspiration from games like Mega Man with its 8 major levels and boss concepts, but it does so in a way that's not, hey, remember when Capcom was cool? Look at me, I'm so cool! Don't get me wrong, I actually like it when games do that. But Shovel Knight is a special case where it feels classic with its 8-bit graphics and chiptune music, but it's also modern by adding things like checkpoints and autosave into the mix. But who gives a shit, because the game's fun. The levels are all awesome, in theory. Not only are all the themes super distinct from one another, but they all have gimmicks unique to their own to make them feel distinct. Each level introduces a mechanic and will test you more and more of your understanding of what you're capable of doing. Not too easy, I mean some levels will just but are also super forgiving because the worst that can happen is that you lose money, but you can recover it anyway if you're awesome enough. For being a man in armor carrying a shovel, Shovel Knight's got a surprising amount of mobility when you give him the right relics, but I looked at the top 5 things that matter, and really, what do you expect when you give me the power to bounce on everything I see fit? When Shovel Knight released in 2014, it was already a really great video game for raising the bar on classic games to be released in a modern era. But over the course of the decade, Yacht Club gave us like a billion updates that consist of more challenges, co-op play, a body swap mode, 3 more campaigns featuring some of the boss characters that may as well be their own games.
In fact, they have you stupid idiot dum 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 dum.
And its own Smash style spin-off with its own single player mode, 20 playable characters, 30 stages, and different battle types, which again may as well be its own game.
I'm not repeating myself.
But Yacht Club just casually took an already complete game and stuffed like 4 more games onto it. Nobody deserves this game really, but we have it anyway, and God bless. Life has many mysteries, like what's the true meaning of it and how the hell did we allow deformed bastardization of this to happen? But there is this idea that we find ourselves asking the same questions about 2 totally different things, such as, how's the weather? Sir, can you please leave this Walmart? And my personal, most important pick?
Is that Sans?
If it makes like 80% of you feel any better. I did try not to stick with this one, but when looking at all the great games I didn't get to play, Undertale it is. 2015 was a great year for gaming to everyone except me. Most of the games I played that year didn't even come out that year. I mean, yeah, I played Gat Out of Hell, but in my opinion it's just Saints Row 4, but not as interesting, even though I still liked it overall. Rocket League is a very fun and unique esports type game, but it being multiplayer only and heavily focused on esports doesn't do much for someone who enjoys single player experiences. There is also Splatoon and Mario Maker, two very phenomenal Nintendo games that I could make a case for either being my favorite of that year, but Undertale, even half a decade later, still kinda heckin' special. Yeah, it's yet another indie game success story with your simple graphics and somehow god-tier soundtrack, but thinking about Undertale again reminded me that games can be so much more than what we think they can be. Undertale could have been just some simple run-of-the-mill RPG. I mean, sure, fighting enemies by playing a rhythm game for offense and a bullet hell game for defense allows each enemy and boss to have way more character than, like, their character, but everything changed, and Tumblr had never recovered, all thanks to one single button. Yeah, this is one of those your actions have consequences experiences, where different actions causes different endings and character moments. Sparing everyone gets you the best ending, killing some gets you neutral, and playing the game like a regular RPG gets you the worst ending. But I think that plays into Toby Fox's genius and maybe maniacal mind, because he really did just... The idea of having a morality system in an RPG really made this game, since it took one of the most infamous tropes of an RPG and turned it over its head, which really puts the idea of mindlessly slaying enemies to get stronger into question. In the new wave of hindsight, I like to call, maybe not, title pending. I thought that the mercy button was just an excuse for Undertale to be, just a little pretentious with its themes and ideals and all that. Well, Ty of maybe 3 days ago. The thing with that is that Undertale's an Alice in Wonderland type story, where you're thrusted into a new society with their own culture, and you're in control of a blank slate protagonist to insert yourself onto. Maybe, just maybe, in their world, murder? Kinda cringe. But I think Undertale's so good because it uses all these factors and does a great job at making me feel how it wants me to feel. When it uses the funny meme skeletons, it makes me happy. When I'm supposed to be sad, then yeah, chances are I'm sad. When I have to fight one of the hardest boss fights in gaming history, suddenly all I see is red. Thank you, Sans, very cool. It's weird to me because 2016 was basically 2014 but worse. Still not much that was super groundbreaking, but even the good stuff didn't really feel as good. Well, I say that, but Pokemon had the time of its life with the most viral Pokemon game probably ever that's still getting some decent support today, and a refreshing take on the main series with Sun and Moon. I'm a lazy asshole, so Pokemon Go didn't do much for me, and for a while, Sun and Moon were my favorite games of 2016, and I almost picked them for this list. But the amount of hand-holding tutorials in the first hour, not too many new quality of life improvements, in fact in some cases there are a few steps back, and the fact that these games can run like piss in certain situations, even on superior hardware, I still enjoy Alola, just not as much as I would like. But a game I did enjoy more than I wanted to was Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. Listen, it's not as wacky and wonderful or even as memorable as other games, but it's still a good game with a surprisingly good combat system and writing, on top of some of the best quality of life improvements in the whole series. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 is my favorite game in the series, and while that is the case, my previously mentioned issue of the game sometimes being repetitive still applies. Even though I'm a single player nutcase, golf with your friends is a crazy fun time, even if it's still in early access. Of course, one of the bigger titles I played and was obsessed with was Overwatch, and I'll admit it's still an impressive game in its own right. It's just that with a lot of old hyperfixations, it wore out over time, not helped by its super messy lore and the fact that it basically invented loot boxes and Blizzard still charged $40. That's hilarious. I'm picking the game that allowed Waddle Dees to drive cars. Guys, they're driving, holy shit. Yeah, I didn't expect this one to top my 2016 experiences either. But the more I thought about it, Kirby Planet Robobot is the kind of game that wants you to love it. I brought up before that one of my issues with Triple Deluxe is that, thematically speaking, it's just another Kirby game and not much more. I mean, that's not inherently a bad thing, but Return to Dreamland kind of came in and changed up the 2D Kirby engine, and aside from a new method of obliterating the entire world by doing something fetishy, they felt almost too similar to me. But now, look at him go! He's doing a great job! The Robobot armor makes me so happy. They literally could have made it into another ability that's just slapped at the end of a level that just annihilates everything in sight. But what we got instead was something way more involved. The Robobot armor has its own variations of the copy abilities, all of which are fun and different from Kirby actually using them. Oh man, he's he's following the laws of traffic. He really is the best GTA player in the entire, and the best part of the Robobot armor is that it's tied to one of the most memorable thematic elements in the entire Kirby series. Having the plot center around some rich, stupid asshole mechanized all of Dreamland, thus allowing the level themes and bosses to look more industrial, allowed for Kirby Planet Robobot to firmly stick out and be its own thing. They could have stopped there too, but they decided to pour in like 80 gallons of fan service in there. I mean, it's a problem when Pokemon does it apparently, but for some reason, having a boss lineup that references just about a majority of the Kirby lineup, even having certain final bosses thrown in the mix too, that feels good. The awesome part is that it's treated as a side element rather than overshadow some of the new stuff. You can tell exactly where my priorities are when Dark Matter returning is less important than this. Look at that one. He's great. Was 2017 really as good of a year for gaming as we all thought of at the time?
If you're stupid, then no it wasn't.
Honestly, something must have snapped in the gaming industry that year. A Hat in Time, Cuphead, Nier Automata, Crash Insane Trilogy, Injustice 2, Tekken 7, Hollow Knight, Breath of the Wild, Jesus! Super Mario Odyssey is a very special game to me. Sure, it's not as earth-shattering as some of the other releases, but playing through it was one of the happiest I'd ever been
at a video game.
I beat it, and then I wanted to beat it again. Its sandbox-like atmosphere is one I actually appreciate because, unlike most open-worldish games I enjoy, it doesn't overwhelm you with the amount of shit you can do. It's a Mario game, not a tax fraud simulator. Your objectives are laid out in front of you, but it gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. And while that's not a unique trait, Mario's movement options are sublime. This is maybe the best I think he's ever controlled in my opinion. That, along with the charming world building it presents, almost made Mario Odyssey my favorite video game. I love it that much. So here's something that did end up being my favorite video game. Hey guys, local Persona fan here. I only played one game so far, but if they're anything like Persona 5, then we're in for the money. Persona 5 demands your attention with some of the best visual identity in just about any media I'd ever seen. I used to study graphic design, so I've been taught a lot of rules about
typography,
such as keeping font choices at a minimum, making sure everything is aligned and at the same size so readability is at its maximum. Persona 5 basically shattered 2 semesters of my study, but it pulls it off fantastically. It matches with the high contrast colors, aggressive motion graphics, and angular shapes for days, and none of it looks ugly or distracts you from the main game. Let's just say you don't see anyone cosplaying as the menus of Mario 2. And that'd be one thing for a game to just look like this, but breaking the rules of graphic design goes hand in hand with the entire game's narrative, where the main character and the party members are restricted by the rules set by society, so their main course of action is to rebel. And I love those kind of moments by virtue of me rooting for those characters to succeed. As for the game itself, I mean, it's like what I insinuated about Undertale. I'd love to leave it at that, but yeah, the RPG turn-based stuff is cool with having your own party of personas and switching between them to see which ones have the advantage over the enemy. I wonder where that appreciation came from. However, even despite doing all that in an amazing catalog of dungeons that are thematically appropriate to the twisted adults you're slapping around, dare I say my favorite portions of the game are the dumb high school parts? I don't know what it is, but even after all the crazy otherworldly scenarios, I really like to chill and ground myself in something more in the line of reality. Studying in school, going on dates, partaking in hobbies, the real world has a lot to do, but doing so will benefit you for when you actually go to the RPG dungeon parts. I goddamn love how the game intertwines the 2 different realities. Okay, wait, I just got word that even though I can call Makoto my girlfriend, I can't have the same dating treatment for Yusuke to be my boyfriend. I take it back, this isn't realistic at all. Yeah, I gotta be honest, this is kinda where I stopped following so many games on release, so the pickings for these last 2 years are super slim. To put it into perspective, these are the games I played that came out in 2018. Now the ones I finished. Now the ones that were actually eligible. Yeah, this was easy. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has 1 trillion characters and is better than sex and virginity. That's it? Okay, since
everyone
and their grandmother and their pet dog has followed and appreciate this game, how about a challenge? I will go through this segment being negative towards Smash Ultimate because, oh trust me, there are a few things to talk about. I think my biggest gripe with Smash Ultimate is how it handles online. Granted, part of that is Nintendo's doing, but even pushing that debate aside, getting to quick play is a mess. You're not guaranteed the rules you want, half the matches blow, global Smash power. The only good thing about online is the
battle arena,
which has led to me getting better at the game, my most memorable moments playing Smash, and even helped bond with a few of my close friends. well, as cool as the Spirit Board and World of Light are in theory, in execution they could have been handled a little better. Really, the main reason I would want to play Spirit Battles are either infrequent DLC fights or a World of Light, and even then, while it was cool the first time, it's too long and repetitive to really justify going through it again. Like, come on, there's a lot of PNGs to fight, all of which have scenarios that closely represent the character, and have a huge variety of skills that you can also set in versus, along with the new Smashdown and Squad Strike modes that add a lot more variety to local Okay then, well, let's talk about the abysmal launch of the game. Yeah, there was like nothing to do, not one thing. I mean, other than those other modes, you tell me what there was. A classic mode with 70 whatever different paths? Please, it only took them until later to add a stage builder, home run contest, Labo VR support, online tournaments, a way to edit replays in the in-game video editor, and an online community hub to share me custom stages and replays. So really, there's actually now a pretty good amount of non-fighter content to sustain yourself. Okay, alright. Who cares about any of that? We all know the main attraction is the fighter roster. Everyone is here, right? Well, that's just too many. It gets super overwhelming to figure out who to even play and to keep track of the roster. It's not like with such a huge roster it means there's a character for literally anyone ever, or for anyone to have a diverse set of mains and secondaries and pockets and all that. And it's also not like any of the new characters are curveball selections, characters that represent certain corners of gaming history, or characters that have been long-time requests like K. Rool, Ridley, Simon, Terry, Joker, or Van... And it's not like that we have even more characters beyond the Fighters Pass, which adds more to the insane amount of content in this goddamn amazing game. How the hell did we earn a game that we did not deserve? Jesus! Oh my god, finally, I'm almost done. I thought 2019 was a pretty good middle ground year to cap off the decade. Not as many insane releases, but even the lesser titles were still a bit more than what most years had to offer. Of course, my picks were also super slim, since I didn't play games like Super Mario Maker 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, Sekiro,
Astral
Chain, Link's Awakening, Crash
Team Racing Nitro Fueled,
Jedi Fallen Order, Resident Evil 2. You know what, the games I actually did play is a much shorter list. Tetris 99 actually made me engage in a Tetris game for once, for a little bit, even though its existence still kind of baffles me and I can't get above 40th place, but you know, still fun. But really what it came down to was between Pokemon Sword and Shield and Devil May Cry 5. And this was a surprisingly hard decision. Yeah. Look, I love Pokemon Sword and Shield. The new roster Pokemon are amazing, the Dynamax mechanic in Pokemon Camp are surprisingly fun, all the characters are also surprisingly great too, but... ooh... Plus, Devil May Cry 5 didn't have the death of sex that was bring back the national dex by fans, which for the record was a great idea. You ever play a game that's so goddamn stupid and literally everything it tries to do and demands that you love it? Yes, I've played Saints Row, but Devil May Cry 5 is a close second. One moment, there's a demon lord that threatens to take over our world. The next moment, here is Nero, riding on his robotic arm like a hoverboard. Oh no! We're in an evil hideout, and who knows what dangers lie ahead? Let me bust my moonwalk. Who the hell is this Adam Driver looking ass, and why is that guy black? The game tries to present this serious story with a villain that promises nothing but destruction, but man, these are the best and worst protagonists to take control of. There isn't a single non-virtual threat that anyone takes seriously, and the dialogue can be corny as all hell, but it puts the stupidest smile on my face every time I think about it. And Jesus, the hack and slash combat. Just about every second of this game is action-packed madness, and all three characters are a blast to control. Nero's got a bunch of metal arms and a blade that he can rev like a motorcycle to cause more damage. Dante has an infinite and a half amount of weapons he can use, like a motorcycle that transforms into dual-wielding chainsaws, and a hat that he can summon meteors with at the cost of the game's money. And while V is the least stupid of them all, he can control 3 different animal companions while he sits back and reads a book or plays his cane like a violin until he lands the killing blow. When Devil May Cry 5 tells me I'm smoking sexy stylish, goddamn do I feel it. Even though, chronologically speaking, this is the latest in the saga, I can't recommend this game enough to anyone looking for some sheer, visceral stupidity. I mean, the game does give you an option to look at a brief montage of the story so far, and as far as I know and am concerned, only 2 of those 4 games are worth playing anyway, so there's that for you. Alright, well, I'm never gonna get any of that time back, so before I end this off, I want to go ahead and take these picks and rank them for literally no reason other than I think it'd be neat. So... yeah, there it is. Right there. You can see it. Yeah.
Okay gamers and game mets, it is me not DigitalTy, because he decided his outro statement he pre-recorded was completely invalidated due to circumstances that are about to be brought up, and he's too lazy and too preoccupied to record a new one, so he just wrote something up and slapped it onto a text-to-speech software. So obviously I was a little late to the party. I did not want to upload it as late as I did, but between a lack of motivation on top of this being my final semester,
hopefully,
it really was a big fucky wucky. The only reason I even got this out now is because I have a light week for college, so I figured why not just bulldoze my way through and just get it out now. I'm sorry if any parts of this feel rushed or whatever. I think being too relaxed with myself on uploads has its own downsides as well, but it's all whatever really. I like my content more when I take my time with it, but actually working on it while I have other priorities is pretty stressful. Plus I want to consider making videos that aren't 20 to 30 minutes long. I think picking smaller scale topics will not only make the video making process a lot more manageable, but will also prevent my channel from being a complete dead zone for months at a time. Not to say I will completely abandon those kinds of videos, but I think a break is in order, or at the very least making them a lot less focused. Anyways, this is normally the part where I do outtakes, and yes, I still have some, but there aren't as many as I thought were worth showing. But that's gonna be it from me for a bit. I'll still be active on Twitter, and I will see you guys whenever. Bye.
Since I'm a stupid virgin.
Ladies, I'm taken. Oh God. Man. Why is this so funny? Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Holy Jesus. Wow. Never mind, I like that way more. God, I suck. That's it. That is the one. But I want to try one more time. Okay,